I view the whole job and the whole career as being 10% caviar, but that caviar is the best you'll ever get, if there is still any left anyway. But I know it's a lot of work for very little but sweet reward. Maybe a miner might experience something like that, where you dig down 100 yards into the ground and you finally get one diamond after all that work. But that diamond, that diamond is a diamond, yeah. When I got my first studio going here in New Zealand, and I started making pieces, and well, they were pretty rough. They were not controlled, they were ill-formed, ill-shaped. I was embarrassed by them, knowing how good they could be and how I was striving for them. And much to my amazement, those were the pieces that, especially the local rural farming community, all the women's groups who would come through the studio on a little tour of sorts, said those were the pieces they wanted. Those were the pieces they thought were the most outstanding in the world. And I'm cringing, going, oh God, no, they're ugly. Ill-made, bad-made, bad craft. But they loved them. And I finally found out why. It was a simple reason that they only saw perfect pieces of glass, like magnificent works in lead crystal, magically carved, beautiful carved, everything just well proportioned. They didn't know that you could bend glass and make it look warped and do the weird things with it that you can do out of the ordinary. And that's what appealed to them. They wanted something not perfect, something unique. Then, as my skill got better, well, it probably took me, it was interesting. I reached a point in my skill development where I was doing everything correct, so things would work out straight all the time. And I found I couldn't make those bad pieces anymore. It took another 2 years, so it was almost a total of 5 years until my skill level reached the stage to where I could make the glass do what I wanted it to. Like, you can learn by rote how to make a perfect round ball or a long cylinder or something like that. You can learn those moves. But to be able to do something out of the ordinary on command, then you need to know how the glass works and how to make it move in those ways. So it took 5 years until I could make them wrong on purpose. When I could do that, I thought, there, now I know my stuff. Now I'm a glass blower.
My first husband and I were very, very good friends, but just completely not suited. We just weren't suited, so we split up reasonably amicably. I met my partner 3 months after we'd split up, completely by chance, totally random. I was going out with my neighbour to a concert. She couldn't go the last minute. She asked her husband's friend who I'd met to go with me because I had the tickets, and went to a concert, met him. And in the comic strips where they see stars and all that when people kiss, it was like that. It really was the most amazing thing. When I met my partner, Danny, he really was my soulmate. After 6 years together, when he kissed me, my tummy still turned over. If you've never had that experience, it's so cool. But I don't know how many other people have that or not, but I did. And 6 years later, I still felt like that. Friends told me after I met him that when I talked about him, I glowed. Danny was very loving, and we both felt like he'd also been married previously, and we both felt like when we met each other, we finally met somebody that totally accepted each other for what we were, who we were, and we both absolutely just loved each other so much. Not long after Dan and I were together, I think it was about 2 or 3 years later, one night I'd been to work and I came home and I cooked tea and I was doing the dishes. And Danny didn't like doing dishes. And having cooked tea, I was standing there doing the dishes. And I was a bit peeved. Here he was, putting the girls off to bed and giving them a bedtime story and rolling around the floor with it playing horses. And I was standing there doing the dishes because if I didn't do them, they wouldn't get done. I was standing there resenting the fact that I had to do the dishes because I really didn't feel like it. And I was standing there and I was pretty annoyed because I didn't want to do the dishes. And then I thought about it. And I thought, I've got this wonderful man who's busy playing with my girls, reading them a bedside story, and he wants to do it. Like, I didn't really have much choice. He wanted to do it. And I'm complaining because he won't help with the dishes. What's more important? Somebody who really loves my children and who's an amazing dad, or someone that does the dishes. And you know, from that time on, I never worried about whether I had to do the dishes or not.
And I introduced myself by saying, first of all, my team's paying black. They always have and they always will. So that was a direct reference to the fact I'd spent so much time in Aussie that a lot of people thought I was an Aussie. And secondly, I'd say the best way to describe myself is I'm a medical condition that has a motorcycling problem. And of course, that went down well at the Ducati rally, but everyone saw the side of me that means the most to me. I don't talk about the Parkinson as a motorcyclist that has Parkinson's. So I'm not speaking negative about Parkinson's or what I have. So I was going up the west coast of Western Australia, up from Carnarvon. It was my first stop for the day, was this little roadhouse. So I pulled in there. And I had to pull around to the backside. There only had 3 pumps. It was only a small place because there was a 4-wheel drive sitting there on this side of the forecourt as I approached it. And what I noticed, it had Iggy Pop and a couple of other band names. So I didn't think much of it. I pulled in, started fueling up, and these 4 people come out of the little roadhouse. 2 older people my age, and then 2 younger people, probably 35. The old bloke come over, and he was a Pommy guy. And I found out that he was from Bristol when they were over on holiday. He said, "So what are you up to?" And I said, "Well, I'm halfway going around Australia." I said, "I'm riding around Australia for Parkinson's." I says, "I've got it." "Oh, really?" And with that, the younger guy said to me, he says, "Oh, my wife and I are both anaesthetists, doctors." I said, "Oh, really?" And the guy said, "Yeah." He says, "But we specialise in some special anaesthetism, special type of anaesthetism and operations." I said, "Oh, really? What's that?" And he goes, "We're both specialise in Parkinson's deep brain stimulation operations." Well, with that, you could have knocked me over with a feather. Because here I was in the middle of nowhere. I won't swear, but I can tell you it was the middle of nowhere. And for me to run into 2 people that were over from Bristol, and I met them on the road when I was riding around for Parkinson's, which again is pretty close to my heart, to run into these 2 people in the middle of nowhere. I said to people later, I said I could search for the rest of my life and never find another person like that.
And I got the job. But then the only problem was that I'd been to a school where I had been mostly in Afrikaans classes and totally Afrikaans university. And then both the managing director and the production manager, who were both directors of the company, were Americans. So then I suddenly had to learn to express myself in English, which is, even today, I have great empathy for migrants who come to New Zealand and who need to learn to speak English in a work environment. And I will never forget the feeling of going to talk about products that we were developing or quality management issues. And I would be halfway up the steps back to my laboratory when I would remember the right English word. So I still say to my English students today that all the words and all the grammar are in your head. Your brains are just not connected to your mouth. Which brings me to the best job I've ever done, now that I'm retired. I've been a trustee of Speech New Zealand. And I'm on the board not because I'm a speech and drama teacher at all, but because they needed somebody who understood finances and marketing. Because all the other board members are these 10 beautiful women who are all drama queens, so they are all drama teachers. So then I saw that they had a syllabus called Professional Speaking, which was not designed for migrants. It was designed for mid-career people who suddenly find that they may be an accountant or an engineer or a lawyer, and then suddenly they have to chair interview panels and they've got to give presentations, and they suddenly need public speaking skills and they're very fearful of it. So there's this syllabus. And I looked at that and I thought, this is exactly what immigrants want, because they come here and again, their brains and their mouths are not connected. They come from these non-English speaking backgrounds. They've got high level qualifications and they don't get the jobs that they should get because they can't communicate with confidence. So based on that syllabus, I developed a professional speaking for migrants course. So I've taught it for 8 years now. It's 12 weeks, 3 hours a week, and then they all come there and they are fearful of public speaking. And at the end of the 12 weeks, they do an examination where they have to stand there and give a talk. They've got to role play a job interview or another job-related situation. They've got to do a social speech. And last year, 15 out of the 18 in the class got distinctions for their Speech New Zealand examination, which is not taken by me, it's taken by a Speech New Zealand examiner. So after all the things that I've done, this is probably the job which gives me the most job satisfaction.
When we went to Rongotai, come Christmas time, they said, for Christmas leave you'll have 3 days and then you got to be back. One of the blokes said to me, well, I invite you to come to my place at Marston, and we went there for Christmas dinner, and then we were due back in 3 days. Well, we took an extra day, I remember that. So for that we were given 7 days CC, as the Air Force called it, confined to camp. One of these nights I remember there was a dance on in town that we knew about at this city mission place. And so 9 o'clock was our last check-in. We had the parade at 9 o'clock, so we were still there. As soon as we'd finished, we nipped out, got our gear on, and so Ron and I, over the fence we went, and somehow or other went to this dance, and we were both taken with this girl, the same girl. She came from Lower Hutt and she had to go home to the train. So we tossed up to see who would take it to the railway station, and he won. He got posted to a place called Mangaroa, which is over the hill from Upper Hutt, and I was at Rongotai for quite a while. So we used to, he'd caught her from there and I'd caught her from town, so she was getting twice courted by 2 different blokes. And eventually she was my wife. I think he went a bit too far with her one night and she turfed him out, and so the field was clear for me. So, when I came out of camp, her mother invited me to go and stay at their place. And I was there until my father became postmaster at Petone, and so then I moved down there and so on. And it was from there that we got married in 1948.
Well, I think ageing for me has been very much impacted by my adoption and my son's suicide, and losing a lot of eyesight and that sort of thing has had an impact. But I don't really want it to. I feel that getting older doesn't mean that I should have any less of a life. But I think my earlier life and everything that happened to me has had a huge impact on how I'm reacting now, because I reckon this is my time to live. I need to get out and never mind being old. I mean, I have a few aches and pains like everybody does, you know, and a few health issues and things like that. But yeah, I think that emotionally I have been hugely impacted by the earlier part of my life, and now's my time in life to be me. I probably thought about getting older as I got into my 40s and early 50s. I think, I'm getting older and more than half my life's gone, and that sort of thing. I didn't think about perhaps being disabled, or I didn't think about how it could be for me with no real family around to support me and help me. I guess I probably saw it as a time of freedom, a time to do what you want to do. You don't have to go to work. You can choose what you do each day. You can sleep in if you want to, or you can get up and go out all day, whatever you like. I just saw it as a time when you can live and truly be who you are and your inner self. To me, it's been a wonderful revelation to retire and to be able to choose what I want to do each day, to make new friends, to join new things, to be part of the community more rather than sitting in an office looking at a computer or a wall all day working on things. This is time for me. It's not time to be for anybody else. Nobody's telling me what to do, and I can just live my life as I choose. Any downsides to it, I tend to put to one side and just move on, because I think, well, people should enjoy this time in their life. And if they have had sad or unhappy things happen to them, well, they're now in the past. But I have lost a lot of friends in their late 50s, early 60s from cancer, and I'm sort of very aware that I'm lucky to be here and be well and healthy. I would say to young people today, look after your health, because there's so much you can do. You can continue to work if you want to. You can travel. I know people that are out hiking miles and miles and miles and doing all sorts of, triathlons and things like that, and they're well into their 60s. I think you need to think about it. If you're younger, I think you need to think about it and prepare for it a little bit more, because so many people are having 40 and 50 years of retirement sometimes.
And then SIPS came to us and said, oh, would we like to take over the home? And my wife, she just said that she didn't want to take over the home. She said there was too much memory. She was there for about 10 years relieving. And then SIPS got hold of us about a month or two later, and said to us, he said, look, we've got another house. Do you want to have a look at it and see what you think? And we can put some children in there, and you can, so my wife and I, we went over and had a look, and we walked around the house and in the house and things like that, and she said, yeah, no, I like this place. So 10, 15 years on, we were looking after the children and things like that. Well, my wife was. I was still working, and she was caring for the children. And she had a love of children, like my wife did. She really had a real deep love for the children. We had hundreds of children coming and going. But then we had some children used to come in at, like 2 months old. He became, like a grandson to me. And he still is to me today. I think he's about 28, 29. So he calls me Papa since. We have a daughter, a girl, and she came to us when she was 6, and her sister was 6 and 7, or 6 and 8, or something like that. And she came to us, and she never ever left us at all. Even when we finished with the home, and she asked the social worker if she could come with us, and things like that. I gave her away when she married. I went back to her divorce. when she had divorced, I went back to the courts with her and things like that, and she's still part of our life today, And with my own children and my own grandchildren, then they all very, very close knit. Even the young fella now, oh, he's 29 now, but he always make contacts and things like that. And he was only 2 months old when we, and we used to get all these babies used to come into the home. They used to these children used to come into the home. He used to be on my side in his little wee cot there, and then we used to get another baby used to come in. They used to bring it late at night, and he'd be on my wife's side. And then that baby would cry and just want to get up there. Yeah, but it used to be like that. And he really stuck to me. He wouldn't leave me, and and things like that.
So, of course, I joined the tramping club, the West Coast Alpine Club. So I was out with 2 chaps from there. So we were going up here, and I know it was down as far as the Friends Joseph. We were going to go up the Friends and over the top and come down the Fox Glacier. That's right, come down the Fox. And we met this other group of 3 guys in the middle of the friends. And then, of course, we were going to make for the Defiance Hut, which is miles up the bank. You've got to go up, sort of scramble up this path, you see. Off we all making for the same hut. Well, my husband, late husband-to-be, he thought he wasn't going to have any girl go in front of him and get the only bed. So then I know there's kicking stones down into my face. Well, we get up there and there's miles of bed. In fact, I have a whole wing of it to myself. Oh, what a hoot. By this time, the weather was appalling. I was soaked through, and I had to spend quite some time with a blanket round me like a skirt, because everything else was absolutely saturated. Your stuff in your pack wasn't much better. You have no idea what the weather can be like on the West Coast. And there were great fountains coming up through the ice, very frightening, and I mean huge fountains. They tried to get off the ice, 2 of them. They weren't away long, they couldn't get far. Nature will defeat you. Easter it was. So this was the beginning of Easter. We were stuck there. As soon as the weather cleared a bit, they sent a little light plane up to see if they could see us, see if we managed to get under shelter because we hadn't come back. So they found out that we were all right, so we gave them all a wave. We were eating some funny food by that time because, of course, we didn't come prepared to stay the whole of Easter out on the ice. I was hard put to it, raiding all the tins. They were all empty by the time we finished.
Yeah, my mother was a music teacher and I was the youngest. So I was the one that was, being the youngest, was given the sort of mantle of having to be the musician, and I don't regret it, and I love music. So I was brought up in a very musical family, a very religious family. Yeah, my musical career started when my mother was setting up this choir when I turned 5 and she had some more time. She set up a choir, and for times I would sit at the back of the hall at the church and listen. And she says one day when I was 7 years old, I just walked up to the back after doing my colouring in books or whatever I was doing and just sat there and started singing. And then she bought me a ukulele, which I fell in love with. And I've got a picture of me sitting at the steps here at my little house at Waikanae playing my ukulele, and I just loved it. And then I was taught the piano, obviously taught to sing. So going right through, when I think about what my mother did for me, she bought me my first guitar. She bought me a set of drums when I turned 16, which was lovely. And she took me to harmony and counterpoint lessons when I was 18, 19 at Victoria University, what was called University Extension. So I still play the piano, guitar and ukulele and things these days. Yeah. As I get older, I'm just happy, as they say, art for art's sake, music for music's sake, just sitting here playing songs, playing it on the piano, making up stuff, writing a few songs and just enjoying it. And three and a half years ago, I joined a singing group in town called Tapestry Music with a guy called Dave Theron, who I'd known when I was a choir boy many, many years ago. And he's an extremely accomplished musician, and he has a group called Tapestry, and we sing a lot. I quit there a year ago because I had some voice issues, but I found that I really enjoyed the rehearsals and working out harmonies and the practice more I did the performing side of things. So what I find interesting is sitting down at the piano and just saying, okay, I'm just going to see what happens, put my fingers on the keys and see where it takes me, and working something out new, or the learning of the song rather than performing. It's what interests me, really. And singing in a choir from the age of 7 till 23, at churches you go to a lot of funerals and weddings, and realising that nobody ever eulogium ever hears about what they did. It was who they were. So, okay, he was a lawyer and he achieved a lot, he did this and the other, but it was really about who they were. That's what's important. It's who you are, not what you are, what you do. I mean, what you do in terms of helping out charity and something like that, that's sort of it, but really it's actually who you are. You're a person who wants to give and understands, in actual fact, the more you give, the more you get back.
You can't get any closer to nature than being out in the wilderness. I love the native trees and the native birds. Oh, it's beautiful. And you're getting hungry, it's lunchtime, and you say, well, we'll wait until we find a really nice place to eat our lunch. And it might be another hour before you find that place, but then you sit down and you bring out your lunch, which is just plain and ordinary, but it tastes like a banquet when you're in the bush. It's just wonderful. And you're passing a lake way out in the sticks, and there'll be a trout coming along, or there'll be a bird that you've never seen before. They're all there when you get out in the country, away from traffic and noise and all that sort of thing. It's all there. I can't really explain it. The smell is of fresh leaves with rain on them, and the smell of the bush. When the tea tree the manuka comes into bloom, you can smell that. And then you come to some kauai trees, and the flowers are falling on the ground. And the native clematis, and you spy that. And the orchids. People who don't tramp don't know about the beautiful orchids that we've got in our bush. They're just beautiful. And we've got them there in our native bush. They're native orchids. That's food for the soul. Can't get better than that. And you put your hands down in the water in a creek or something, and just throw it over yourself. It's beautiful, beautiful. You don't know you've lived until you've experienced all that. And you get to a hut at night and you can be so tired, so worn out, and you take your boots off and you lie down on your bunk, and it's just gorgeous.
Another interest which started in the early 2000s was I joined U3A, the University of the Third Age, both with art and U3A. That's the major part of my life now, of course. It has a monthly meeting, but it also has study groups. So I'm in exploring art for fun. I'm in music, mainly classical. I'm in puzzles, paradoxes and problems. Puzzles and paradoxes is one group, which is mathematical and that sort of thing. I'm in the inventors group, and I'm currently the convener of the audio-visual group, creative audio-visual group. So it's pretty busy. I'm very keen on new technology, and I'm fascinated. One of the things, if this is a point, one of the things that annoys me most intensely is that at some stage in the not too distant future, I'm going to have to hand my cards in, and I'm not going to find out what it's like, because the things that are happening, particularly with such things as artificial intelligence and the singularity, where the singularity is the major thing, where two things happen. We have a computer which is powerful enough to mimic the human brain, and we have neuroscientists who have actually interpreted the brain's function such that you can write a program which replicates it. So you both have that and the computer to run it. And we're doubling the knowledge on this earth about every 2 years. And the singularity, of course, is the point where tomorrow the total world's knowledge doubles. Well, you can't have that. It's not going to happen. So something's got to happen in between. But that period, which will be when I'm not going to be here, it's going to be so fascinating. And the young people are going to be so lucky to see what's going on. It really is. It's thrilling, I think.
Before I went away, I went into the army at 18. I was called up with the first 18-year-old ballot, and I was to get out after 3 months. And the day before I was to get out, the Japanese came into the war, and they said, "You're staying in the army." Well, we went to Egypt first, and we spent 2 months in Egypt training alongside the pyramids, and then we went to Italy and chased the Germans out of Italy. The winter of 1944 was tough, one of the worst winters Italy experienced. Snow on the ground for 2 months of the year. And I was infantry. The first time that we went in was what they call a creeping barrage, and the guns were just ahead of it, landing ahead of us, and we followed it. The noise was just terrific, and it was pretty frightening at the time. But how we were young, it went from boys to men, and overnight, really. I got wounded in the Senio River, got a shrapnel in the shoulder, and spent 6 weeks in the hospital, and that was the best 6 weeks of the war. In between sheets and getting breakfast in bed. Once I had to get back in again. But by then the Germans were on the run, and we never lost any men from then on. I went in, I think it was April, about the 9th of April, I went back, and the war finished on the 10th of May. It was a real holiday from then on. Oh, it was great. We celebrated for about a week after. It was all over, but we were unfortunate. The New Zealand division was at the top of Italy on the Yugoslavian border, and we had trouble with Tito, Yugoslavian, and for a couple of months he wanted Trieste, and the Allies wouldn't let him have it. There was quite a bit of tension there. It would have only taken a few shots to start a war, you know. And we were glad when I think the Russians told him to get out and leave us alone, yeah.
I realised after recently doing a play at this time of life, which I thought I could never do again because of learning words. You know, as you're older, it's hard. The recent play I've done, well, I'm 74. I mean, you know, this lady, she rang me up. I'd done a play reading for her with my group, Marvellous. Marvellous is a group of over 65 actors, and we've been together for about 6 years now. We were formed by Michael Hurst, who called for people over 65 to perform in the Wasteland at Auckland Theatre Company. He took all of us. He auditioned, he took all of us. Whoever wanted to do it, he took. And he made this wonderful play out of the poem, The Wasteland. And we had such a wonderful time. And we all said how marvellous it was. So we became marvellous, and some of us broke off and we formed this group, and we've been performing ever since. And we do the Short Plus Suite at Tapak once a year. We've won awards. The first one we did, I wrote a poem and we all performed it. I'd always wanted to learn to paint, so I did an art and design course, level 4. And then I got accepted at all the tertiary. I just chose, so I went to Elam. I loved it, but what happened eventually, because I was with Marvellous, once I'd finished the learning and stuff, well, you never finish learning. But anyway, in 2017, I had a poem called I Am Red. I thought, right, I'm going to do some portraits of all the Marvellous people. I did all their portraits. We booked North Art down at the North Art Gallery in Northcote, and I had an exhibition, and they all performed the poem, I Am Red. So it was a combination of everything I do, the painting, the poem, and the performance. It was just a wonderful experience. It was a great thing to do. And that was, as I say, 2 years ago, yeah. But it was great fun.
There was an artist who placed an advertisement in the Herald saying, artist wants a place by the sea for 6 months. She came and rented my badge, my little cabin behind the badge, and her name is Ellie Eagle, and she was a radical lesbian feminist artist, and she taught me about the existence of women artists and the women's art movement and all of that. But the thing that Ali did that was very unusual was she went down to the sea and worked with the sand. And I took to that immediately. So I started working with sand, and I'd make sand forms and then offer them to the sea. And the peak of that was ANZART, which was the Australian and New Zealand art event that it was in a feminist art group we called ourselves FAN, Feminist Art Networkers. We were very, very radical, and we wanted women artists to be acknowledged and given a place. And so we decided that because hardly any women got grants to be part of our ANZART, we were going to make sure that we were 50% women were represented on the committee that made the decisions. So we got some of our members in there. They got onto the committee, and then when I submitted my proposal for ANZART, it was accepted. And the proposal was to get 100 women onto the beach out at Tahinga, where my batch is, and do a great big performance piece there called the 100 Women Project. And it was accepted, and so I got funding. The first time I got all that support, I had total confidence in my ability to make things happen. They all turned up on the day. It was Mother's Day in May 1986, and I took them through, I had helpers, 25 at a time. I led them through a preparation, a visualization, and they went through this visualization, and then in silence, in single file, they filed out onto the beach, and there they all had a sand shovel with them, and they all made a mound on the beach. And then in silence, they got together with another person, and they did one together. I had the TV cameras filming, and I had someone filming on Super 8, unfortunately. Then they went back, and they all linked hands, these 100 women, and I had a chant that I'd composed, and they just moved around all the mounds in a circle, 150 mounds, chanting. And then the sea came in and just washed over them and washed around them. And it was, TV got stunning footage, and it was on the evening news. And I made a video of it. And that's one of the videos that's now in the Auckland City Art Gallery Feminist Archive exhibition.
I think this is probably where my life had a second beginning, because not only the fact that I've married again, and I never ever thought that I would marry again, but the fact that when I sold my big house and I moved into an apartment, I didn't think I'd move from there because I was 70 odd, and I thought, well, this is where I'm going to be. I was still selling real estate, but I didn't see myself going on with that much longer. But it's quite amazing that my life has bloomed, not because that I married Ian, but because I've taken a whole new look at how life goes, a whole new look. And even though I developed a confidence in myself, I've developed a bigger confidence in myself now. I'm much more confident, and I'm a great believer now that you can do anything that you really want to and put your mind to it, you can do it. And so I've come down here, we've got this beautiful apartment, and I've set up my own real estate company here, just me, myself, and everybody thinks, you're mad at 70, I'm 75 this year, you're mad because you've got a lot of competition out there, but I'm giving it a go. And while I'm giving it a go, I'm out there in the world mixing with people. And also, now that I have reached this age, I'm very concerned about how people treat older people, the fact that they treat you like you're invisible and there's nothing going on in that head. A lot of people do that, and a lot of young people do that. And that's going to be a very hard thought. No, you can't change their thoughts overnight unless you sort of work with them. And they've got to want to work with you too, don't they? So I'd like to change the way people treat you. I want the younger people to realise that a lot of us have got a lot more going on our head, and we've got a lot more to contribute to the world still, and will do hopefully until we die. And that you just don't push us off to the shelf and say, well, they can't contribute to the world, really. That's what I'd like them to change.
I met my